didn't realize Lizzie was that old.
Yeah,
Wow.
he was on a long time.
Jeez, I can't believe he's got a memory like that.
Oh.
I couldn't have given you that information.
I didn't know she was 87, Dad. Of course, let's see. So how, assuming it was the summer of 1960 when I stayed with her.
Were we living across the road?
No, we were living in Auburn, and I stayed with Lizzie for 2 weeks when we were living in Auburn. We're guessing it was about the summer of 1960. She would have been 77 years old at that time when I stayed with her.
Lizzie was an old woman all my life.
I tell you something.
She carried me up the damn stairs.
Yeah, I tell you.
Put me to bed.
Let me tell you something.
The devil's bed, she called it. Why did she call it that? Do you know why she called it that?
No, I never. That's just all new to me.
She called it, there was one bed, it was a single bed, it was up real high, and I slept on it upstairs, and she called it the devil's bed.
I wonder why she said that.
I don't know. She had a reason, I can't remember what it was. Whether somebody fell out of it and hurt themselves, or...
It might have been the account of the sister that had the spinal meningitis.
That's the story that she fell out of that bed or something?
She kept falling out of it, going back in the rocking chair and hitting her head, and falling out of bed too, I suppose.
That might have been the connection there.
Yeah, I remember her saying that's the devil's bed.
Let me tell you something now. You come from good stock.
It's pretty obvious.
Because your great grandmother, when she lived to be 97.
Which great grandma?
Grandma Major, and she could, I think, well, how old would I be? Around 10 years old or something like that when I got down to see her.
This is Marianne Quigley?
No, Marianne.
Or
O'Neill.
Marianne O'Neill.
Yeah, and she wanted me to pick some cherries. I had a big cherry tree. It was that big around in the trunk, and I had black ox cherries, nice big juicy, but that was up on top of the tree. And she wanted me to go up and pick them, and I started up the tree, and I got afraid, and I come down. And she said, well, you stay here, and she shimmied up the tree and got the cherries. And she was still breaking wood over her knee for kindling wood. Took some branches and things like the size of that. Piled them up to go on the stove.
Amazing.
And she was never, I don't think she was ever sick, but she just lost her mind from old age.
Yeah.
And
well, you know, the thing that amazes me is that during that 2-week period, it was sort of a thing of amazement. I remember that Lizzie, when I would fall asleep downstairs in that front room watching TV after eating my Franco-American spaghetti dinner, she picked me up and carried me up those stairs and took me to bed. She was over 70 years old when she did that.
She was always in good health up until the time that she sent for me, and I went down and she says, look, bud, she said, my ankles are all swollen. I don't know, they used to call them dropsy.
Yeah, mine had it.
Yeah, a heart trouble. My had it, yeah. And she says, what am I going to do? She says, my time is up. I says, well, Lizzie, come live with me. You sell your house, come on up. Well, she didn't know. I said, well, the kids all love you. If you want to come, you're welcome. And later on, she told me she was coming. And she was going to sell the house. And then we had to wait to get her in the hospital. She come on out. I could take care of her. And waited to get her in the hospital. And finally did get her in. And she wouldn't, she was so worried about losing her mind like a mother, you know.
Yeah, she always says,
Yeah.
I go before I lose my mind.
Yeah, I want to die before that happens, so
Did her mother have Alzheimer's disease or lose her mind? You know,
Just
become
from
senile?
old age. I mean, she was good up until the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
Probably,
sure.
And so anyway, she didn't like the hospital. She was only in there a day or two, and they had a strap around the bed, straight jacket, like, you know. And
Was this in 1970 or thereabouts?
just
before she died,
you know,
okay.
she was only in the hospital about a week when she died. But then she slipped out, and they would come in, the bed would be empty. She'd gone. She didn't want to stay there anymore, and you got to stay. And no time at all, and she was dead.
What happened to her? How did she die?
This
Was it
guy,
heart failure or
heart
something?
failure. Well, it was from what do they call it?
Congestive heart failure.
Yeah.
Well, she got her wish. She died before her mind went.
Oh, anyway, she sold the house
Yeah.
and everything before she died. And that bloodsucker real estate woman there, she was a friend of Ann Ward's and they had a she didn't sell the house right away. I mean,
Well, she had us in the will.
yeah.
We were in the will, so we,
Yeah. But we would have had something to say about the house. They wouldn't have got it for that price.
and so, Bud and I were survivors. When we inherited about $14,000 or $7,000 each, they sold the
Yeah.
house for 14.
It would have been a lot more there if they hadn't,
Yeah,
them
imagine
bloodsuckers didn't get a hold of her.
Some realtors or something? Or?
Yeah, and she was a sticky, shady.
I was down here,
I remember when it happened. I remember when
There was
Lizzie-
nothing they could do anyway because
we were down at the Kirstings that night.
That's right, I took off with Kathy and we drove up here and I took a plane up there.
Yeah, well,
Kathy drove back home to Tampa, right?
no, this was 1970. This was the summer I was a sophomore. Kathy was still at Lopez, I guess.
Well, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
we were
well,
still, yeah, we all drove back up.
oh,
That was
really?
Mike was throwing up the whole way because we got drunk the night before.
Oh,
Mike, remember that?
Yeah.
We were down, Mike and we were down visiting our old next door neighbors down in Key West, and the night before, in the middle of the night, we took a 6-pack or 2 of beer, and me and the kid and Mike went out and drank it, and Mike was just puking the whole way up.
Well, how old were you then?
In 1970, this would have been 2 years before I graduated from high school, so I probably was about 15, 14.
You guys are sneaking out drinking beer. Yeah, I remember that now, Mike. I could still see you guys jumping off that bridge down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got a phone call, somebody called me.
Somebody called and said, I remember hearing you tell Mom, Lizzie's gone.
So I guess my mom stayed behind and I took off. I remember driving home with Kathy back here and then getting a reservation out of here.
Oh, maybe my memory's wrong.
no,
I thought you packed us all up and we all left early. We all took off.
Maybe we came in
We all came back.
a convoy or something.
Yeah. Oh. Were we down there with the Calmans that time? Was that
Yes,
the time we
we
were
were.
down there with the Calmans?
I think we were. Remember you kids were up in the top of over the cab. You
Yeah.
could see everything.
Maybe you and Kathy took off and then we came back the next day or something with the Calmans.
Yeah, it seems.
I can't remember how we got back. All I know is that Mike was sick because he was hungover because we were nipping the.
Yeah, I think we were because we went down to the Key West,
Yeah.
and we stopped along the way and had our cookouts and everything.
Right.
And didn't we have walkie-talkies? We were
Yep.
talking to each
Had
other.
walkie-talkies in the cars driving down to Key West.
We talked to each other from one car to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went up there and my boss from work called me up. He said, "You better get back here. We're going to have to. You're going to be so I had to go back to keep my job, you know.
Yeah.
I had to leave it all up to Bud to handle the legal end of it. Would we have Charlie Major for the attorney?
No, I had,
Milton?
Milford.
Milford.
He was, his father was, Liz always liked him, because Milford and Major was law
Yeah,
partners.
they were law
His
partners.
father and Charlie were lawyers together,
Yeah,
and this is Milford's son, is also a lawyer.
yeah.
And I know something about him that he didn't know. I mean, when he was overseas, he was around these Red Cross girls over there. He didn't know I was on the same base.
Bud's got the dirt on this guy.
He was married to high-class broad in Skaneateles. Yes, he was. I mentioned it to him. I mentioned I was there, right the same place where he was.
Well, we might have held on to that place if Bud hadn't been out of work. You were off on strike for a long time.
What's that?
When Lizzie died, you were out of work and we sold the house.
Chip, I had no authority at the thing at all. I mean, Liz sold it before she died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Liz sold the house?
She sold the house before she died. As I said, it would only happen the other way around.
Maybe you'll pick it up.
I think
I
it's
got
for
it.
me.
Hello? Who's this? Who's this? Hi, Doris. This is Rob. How are you?
I'll take it in the bedroom.
I'm doing fine. I'm sitting over here talking with Bud and my dad, and we're trying to, just going over all the old history stuff. Well, it's good to hear your voice. Yeah, well, I thought my dad, I thought Bud was my dad when I called here the other day looking for him. He's fixing to pick up the phone here, and there he is. Bud, you got it? Okay. Well, that's news. I didn't know that.
Well, I didn't know that either. I thought that, see, I was being down here, it was in his hand.
Yeah.
And I thought that when Lizzie died, that it was just I didn't know the house had been sold, and I only stayed not long enough to go through all this with Bud.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know the lawyer, Bud was out on strike, and he was up to his ass in debt. And he wanted the split of the legacy so he could pay off all these bills, so the lawyer arranged that. I think a house went for $14,000. And I got 7 and Bud got 7. But I thought Bud just sold the house.
Yeah, but it turns out that
Well,
Lizzie had
turns out
already
it's
sold
already
it.
gone. Yeah, well, I didn't know that.
Wow.
No, I often thought over the years, like, God, what the hell did we do that for,
Yeah, that was the family homestead. It wasn't until today that I realized that was actually the original Major family homestead.
And you know how big that house was? How the hell could they keep 10 kids in that place? I don't know how they did it.
Well,
There was only about 1 or 2 bedrooms in the whole place. Yeah, I just didn't know this until now that the house had been sold. I thought that, they read the will and Lizzie had left us the legacy, but nothing was mentioned at the time that the house had been sold. I don't know why, I just didn't realize that.
yeah.
Where would the money have come from if it hadn't been sold? I just didn't think about it. Well, that's water over the dam now.
Sure.
Wouldn't it have been nice if we could have hung on to it? And whenever I went up on visiting, or you and family, there'd be a place up there,
Well, maybe one of these days it'll come back up for sale and we can grab it.